everybody, I'm Angela Yee, along with my partner, Stacey Tisdale. Welcome to a special edition of Wealth Wednesdays called Rebuild Your Dream. We've all been through a lot, personally and financially, over the past year, and that makes it hard to keep sight of our goals and dreams.
That's what this episode is all about, seeing the light through what's been a financial storm and creating a plan to get you there. We're going to share insights from an amazing group of thought leaders and trailblazers from business, financial tech, and hip-hop. We want to do a special shout out to all the students at HBCUs who are watching. And if you have questions, submit them in the comments and we're going to answer them in a chat after the show.
It's almost impossible to achieve your goals alone. That's why we're launching an amazing new platform called TeamWealthWednesdays.com. That will be a place where our community can come together, learn how to create financial security, and build wealth. We will support you in your pledge to, quote, learn, plan, and act when it comes to your financial life. Debt is one of the biggest obstacles people face when it comes to building or even having dreams. It's not only the numbers. We have a long history of making debt mean a lot more than dollars and cents.
After the War of 1812, jail populations swelled with people who had fallen victim to the economic hardships that followed the conflict and were in debt, particularly poor and vulnerable populations. Even though imprisonment of debtors was eliminated in 1883, classism and racism created an opening for people with debt burdens to be labeled as weak, irresponsible, and illiterate. We are imprisoned by these same stereotypes today. Releasing this stigma in your own mind will be one of the most important steps you can take towards getting debt out of your life.
Dr. Andre Perry studies the economic impact of racism on majority Black cities, and he's the author of Know Your Price.
We see that one of the roadblocks to business ownership, to home ownership, is what we call uncollateralized debt. So hospital bills, student loans, credit card bills. And this transcends income level. So we have lots of middle-class people saddled with tremendous student loan debt.
And when it comes to managing debt, technology companies are providing solutions that traditional financial service companies and even the government have failed to do. Online financial companies discriminate significantly less than loan officers who make decisions face-to-face.
When it comes to accepting or rejecting loans, face-to-face lending sees Black and Latinx borrowers, as you already stated, be rejected 6% more than identically situated non-minority borrowers. So what does that mean? That means that automatic mortgage processes, like you see with the Rocket Mortgage app, and other fintech leaders help to cut down this bias in the process and lay bare the bias that still exists in face-to-face lending. So while technology isn't perfect, and we know there's some disparities that still exist, we need to figure out how to replicate the processes that will remove inherent biases from the equation and evaluate clients based solely on their financial situation. And that's where we feel like fintech companies are ahead of the curve, but there's just lots more work to do.
If you look at Puffy, if you look at Jay, you look at Dre, you look at myself, they're just people that got in the game and they're just moving it around and they're smart enough to know an opportunity when they see one.
When you hear Black people talking about themselves and their businesses, oftentimes you hear us talking about it's our hustle, it's our side hustle, it's the thing that we do on the side. Even if you think about the way we talk about our own experiences, we're not talking about it from abundance. And I know that we can do it together if we change our mindset from looking to the left and right to who actually used to have the power, and instead looking to ourselves to actually drive that within ourselves and within our communities.
In order to drive your dreams forward, you have to set goals. And when we talk about setting financial goals, the first thing we typically do is think about numbers. I want to save more. I want to get out of debt. But numbers are actually the smallest part of the equation.
That's right, Angela. While goals provide you with the motivation to stick to a financial plan, to create them, you need to look at what's in your heart, not what's in your wallet. Joining us to help you dig deep and share how she connected her goals and dreams with an action plan, Melissa Butler, founder and CEO of cosmetics giant The Lip Bar, also an alumnus of Florida A&M University. And we know there are a lot of Rattlers out there watching. Thanks so much for joining us, Melissa.
Oh my goodness,
Yay.
thank you so much for having me. And shout out to the Rattlers. I'm excited that you just said that.
Well, welcome, Melissa. We've heard a lot on Wealth Wednesdays that the key to success is to come up with a product that solves a problem. And that's exactly what you did while working as an analyst on Wall Street. So tell us about that.
I started the company because I was just frustrated with the beauty industry, the lack of diversity, the excessive amounts of chemicals. And I was like, you know what? Instead of complaining about the industry that's not representative of Black women, of brown women, I'm going to create a company that combats that. And so we were always a purpose-driven company, and that's exactly why we've been able to sustain over the last 9 years.
It's so interesting to hear you talk about your success, because I know you were famously rejected by all the judges on Shark Tank when you pitched them your idea, but you obviously didn't take no for an answer. So we want to know, what did you tell yourself and what did others tell you that let you keep going?
Well, my thing that keeps me up at night and also keeps me going is I just think about that little brown girl who may wake up and not think that she's enough when she looks in the mirror. And so for me, I think that beauty should be one of those things that we really look to have those internal notions and those internal pieces of acceptance. But I understand that it's hard with social media. You're on your phone all day. You're looking at people who people are praising as beautiful. And so what keeps me going is really just this idea that I want people to know that they are enough.
And what's the size of your business today from when you started to where you are today? And I want you to talk about the growth. And is it a controlled growth? I know you've hit some milestones even recently. So talk about that.
Our first year in business, when I was making every single product in my kitchen, I think we made $26,000. And I was so proud of that $26,000. I couldn't believe that I sold $26,000 worth of product that came from my bare hands. And so I didn't really know where the company would grow or where we would go, to be honest. And today, we're in over 700 Target stores, and we're in over 500 Walmart stores. And so today it's like we might make $26,000 in a day. We might make $100,000 in a day. So our growth has just been magnetic because of the community that we've built and then the products that support that community.
I love it. Well, Melissa, right now we want you to join us in an exercise that Stacey has people do, and that's to get started on your path to financial wellness and help people out too. It's 3 questions that help you figure out what you really care about, so you can direct your financial resources toward what matters most. So, Stacey, let's hit it.
Okay, Melissa. I want you to imagine that you have all the money you will ever need for the rest of your life. Money will no longer be a worry. What would you do with your life and your time?
Well, I just want to start by saying this is like my morning meditation. So y'all are in my head. If I were to imagine my life with every single thing at my disposal, I would probably just be giving back. Like, I am all about, having abundance internally, but then also making sure that my community around me experiences that same abundance.
Excellent. Now I want you to imagine that you go to the doctor and she tells you that you have 5 to 10 years left to live. You're not going to be in pain. It's going to be a quick death. But with 5 to 10 years left, how would you change your life? Where would you be? Who would you be with?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, 5 to 10 years left to live. I would have to have a baby. Like, immediately, I would have to have a baby. And then I would just spend the rest of my time like laughing. Like, I love to laugh and be in community with my friends and family. I would probably leave America and like go to West Africa or something. And like, I would live a simple life. I wouldn't like try to accomplish all these bucket list items. I think I would live a really relaxed, simple life where I can just appreciate the small things, like the sway of the trees or the sound of the ocean.
Yeah, it's amazing when we think about those things in these terms, and we see how much time and resources and money we're putting towards things that aren't at those core priorities and goals.
Most of the things that we do with our time, it just really isn't that important or impactful to like your real life. So when we think about like our day to day, it's like, I think it's a challenge. Even you asking me that question makes me think like, okay, well, Melissa, how are you going to make today as magical as you want it to be? And how do you, live your life with a little less stress and focus on what's really important?
Okay, there's one more question, and this one's going to cut even deeper. So you go back to this doctor, we don't like her very much, and instead of telling you you have 5 to 10 years left to live, she tells you that this is it. Today is your last day. The question is not what are you going to do, but what do you regret? What do you regret not doing in this precious life that's about to end?
I would probably spend an hour reflecting and just appreciating what happened, and then spend the rest of the day with my family and friends. Like, I don't have regrets, y'all. And I think it's really important to know that everything that happens on your journey is supposed to happen. And it allows you to become exactly who you are. So, yep, I don't regret a thing. I'm just like smiling. I'm like, man, I lived a crazy life.
And that's what's so interesting about these exercises, like you were saying. The point of them is, people should start there before they start financial planning, because of what you just said. They really illuminate, okay, why am I spending all my time and my resources going here or buying this, buying that, when you get down to what's really important, it probably doesn't take that much. And if you reallocate your financial resources and your networks and stuff towards those things that did reveal themselves as important, you will achieve your goals, and be like you, who can pass with no regrets. We really appreciate you sharing that.
Now, Melissa, before you get out of here, we do want to ask you the best advice that you've gotten, and what advice do you have for the Wealth Wednesdays community? Because they're setting their own goals for their financial dreams as well. So if you could share that.
I think my advice to the community would just be to try to live as confidently as you can. I think that if you actually have the confidence to accomplish whatever it is that you want in life, you actually will achieve it. You just really have to believe in yourself. Like, there were so many times when I probably could have, or for some people should have, given up along this journey. But I felt confident about my mission, about my purpose, and that I was the person to actually do it. And so that's why I've been able to achieve, some level of success.
I'm always impressed by you and everything that you've accomplished. So thank you again, Melissa Butler, founder and CEO of The Lip Bar.
I made more money outside of music than I made from music. Because when those deals go, they go for real. It's big money involved.
Here's how to create goals that work. Goals need to be smart, specific. I want to have $5,000 in an emergency fund by next December. Things like I want to save more or spend less are too vague. They need to be measurable. If you start the year with that goal of having $5,000 in an emergency fund by December, you know that you should be at the $2,500 mark by June. Attainable. That means knowing what you can afford, what you have going out and coming in. Relatable. You should be able to clearly share your goals with a friend or loved one. In fact, you have an almost 80% higher chance of achieving them when you ask someone to hold you accountable. The T in SMART is for timely. If you're helping your child pay for college this year, it may not be the time to buy a new house.
Let's be real. A lot of the time, even when we've set our SMART goals and made a plan to achieve them, we just don't do it. We don't always make the choices or take the actions that will get us to where we've decided we want to be. Why is that? The short answer is what's called money scripts. To quote Rick Kaler, the author of Conscious Finance, if you think of an unconscious belief as a script, it's easy to understand it as a set of instructions written by someone else. Actors are given scripts, which they can rehearse until they can follow them perfectly. In the same way, we blindly follow our money scripts. We've learned our parts well, and we faithfully act them out.
Money scripts come from things like the way we saw money handled or not when we were growing up. Was money always a struggle in your family? Did you only hear money talked about when there was a problem? How is that affecting your thoughts and behaviors now? The same thing happens with messages from society. We see so many images of what we should have to be normal or successful. How much of what you think you need is real, and how much is coming from your scripting? Here's Dr. Andre Perry again.
For me, when I approach this work, and I think a lot of people approach this work, they know their worth. They know that, and I say this all the time, there's nothing wrong with Black people that ending racism can't solve. And so these myths about we're conspicuous consumers, that we waste our money, I mean, that's a lot of baloney.
When it comes to race, money scripts play a huge role. Black people, for example, are largely perceived to be financially illiterate. This plays out in things like higher interest rates for loans, unfair housing practices, and unequal pay. The real problem comes when we start to blindly follow those scripts and we begin to believe those things about ourselves. We forget things like our power to learn, build wealth, and achieve our dreams.
You probably know our next guest from her acting roles in Power Book 2, Ghost, Fame, Notorious, and The Playboy Club, to name a few. Actress and singer Naturi Naughton's talents don't stop there. She has wisdom and insights that will inspire and help you achieve your goals and dreams.
Team Wealth Wednesdays is thrilled to welcome a good friend of mine, Naturi Naughton. Now, Naturi, congratulations. Again, you've had some really major life events, and we'll get into all of that. But one of the things I want to talk about is you just recently purchased a home. A lot of people in our audience want to become homeowners, but if it's the first time, it can be really intimidating. If you wouldn't mind, can you give us some advice you would like to pass along about what the experience was like for you?
I purchased a home. I actually purchased my first condo, like season 3 of my show Power. And that was really hard. My very first time, it was intimidating. It was daunting. It felt like I just could, like, there was so many papers. Don't be intimidated by, the constant process of delivering information to the underwriting team, getting my credit together, which is why I'm really into like building credit. But buying a home is one of the biggest decisions of your life. It's invasive. They all in your business. But, the one thing that I appreciate is when it's said and done, make sure you get a good real estate attorney, make sure you have, a good realtor, and really, really do what you can beforehand to get your credit score up so you can get a lower interest rate. So for me, initially, it was a little like, oh my gosh, can I actually buy this home? I didn't really ever think I would be a homeowner in my 30s, but here I am. So it's very possible. You just have to set the goals and stick to your plan.
We've just been talking about something called money scripts, those messages that we tell ourselves that actually affect our choices and behaviors. Things like, oh, I'll always have credit card debt, credit's always going to be a problem. What are some of the money scripts that you tell yourself to be successful, and what are some of the scripts you had to change?
Yeah, that's such a good point. Money scripts. I like that. I might use that because we do the same thing. We do the same thing in relationships. We do the same thing with work or, intimacy or whatever. Oh, I can't fall in love, or I can't be loved, or I can't have a good life, or I'll never be able to afford a beautiful home or take my kids to a better school. All of those are like your subconscious lying to you. And that is what we call, negative thoughts trying to, embed themselves into your brain. If you reinforce yourself with positive thoughts, the script needs to change the narrative, change that script and say, you know what? I deserve this house. I can start again. I can say things like, I know I might have bad credit now, but I won't have this forever. You can also say things like, this situation is temporary. I didn't work for 2 years, but I had to keep telling myself, this will not last always. And if you truly believe that and really kind of hone in on your gifts and your talents, you can do anything.
Now, Naturi, you also recently got engaged. So congratulations. This is like my 20th time telling you congratulations.
I know, on every show.
Show off that ring. But we are talking about money scripts. And one of the most important things that couples can do is understand each other's money scripts. So they can lose that notion of right and wrong and really communicate with each other. What would you say are you and your fiance's money beliefs? Are they the same? Are they different? Have y'all discussed that?
My fiance has taught me a lot, and we talk about everything. And I would advise you ladies out there and men, be like, okay, so how your credit score looking? What's your situation? I need you to ask those questions up front. And I remember in dating him, he was very transparent. He was really big, and he had already owned a home in another place. We live in New York, but he comes from a family that has taught him about entrepreneurship. And the other thing I would say, not just in the credit, is building your own brand. Entrepreneurs, doing your own thing, being kind of managerial, being, just find new ways to make money. There's no one way to get money and to be successful. So I think that's important. And we have that conversation all the time.
One of the things I often ask parents to do is together think about the most important lesson they want to teach their child about money and figure out what did they have to change in their own life to walk the walk and be the role model their child needs them to be. What is the most important thing you and your fiance want to teach your daughter about money?
When you start with your children, passing down good habits, like paying things off early, don't procrastinate. It's really about breaking old habits or generational curses, if you will. Because so many kids grow up thinking like, well, my parents didn't have it. We struggled. I'm a struggle. They didn't have good credit. We grew up in an apartment. I'll never have a house because they didn't have a house. And again, that's all about, the state of mind. But for my daughter, I tried to lead by example.
This show is about helping our community reconnect with their goals and dreams. It has been very difficult to do after a challenge like COVID has been presented to the Black economy. So what advice would you have about believing in your goals, even when you feel overwhelmed?
What I would say is sometimes you have to prioritize your list and recognize that you can't do everything at once. So when I write that list and I start prioritizing my goals and I start reevaluating what I really want, because if my purpose is just to make money, you could spread yourself all over and get a bunch of money. But is my purpose to inspire people and get money and be a good influence for young Black and brown young people, from many backgrounds? If I focus on purpose, I will then recognize what I should be doing professionally, personally, and in every other way. So I think you start taking a pause. I know it's overwhelming, but you can do it if you pause, reevaluate, and prioritize.
Naturi Naughton, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best, and we're so glad that you are a member of Team Wealth Wednesdays. We're going to turn our focus to home ownership, partly because it's one of the best ways to build wealth, but also because we know it's on many of your minds. Self Financial, one of our favorite apps that helps you build credit history while building savings, found that nearly 60% of their users are working to rebuild their credit this year because they want to buy a home.
One of the silver linings that we're seeing in this landscape is that millennials are realizing a spike in home ownership. They are moving out of their downtown apartments and purchasing homes, a lot of times in Black neighborhoods where the home prices are lower. And they're going into Black neighborhoods or inner ring or outer ring suburbs to purchase homes. And you're seeing a small resurgence in that regard. And so I'm encouraged by that.
Sharita Humphrey was able to rebuild her credit and begin saving money by using the Self app.
Credit is critical to your journey to home ownership. You have to know your numbers. Knowing your Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion scores, especially that middle score, is going to be critical to you even starting the pre-approval journey. Being able to get into a position where I can build my credit, purchase a home, and be able to save at the same time was just the thing that I needed to be able to really become the financial trailblazer that I was desiring to be.
At the Team Wealth Wednesdays website, you'll find lots of resources to help you prepare for home ownership.
Black economy in the United States really started when Lincoln freed the slaves. There's been a series of events in history that Blacks have gone through that have left a huge psychological and emotional impact, and that really plays out in their financial behavior and their relationship with money. You had over 5 million Blacks move north at the turn of the century because of fear of lynching. Redlining, when it was against the law to give money to Blacks to buy real estate. They weren't allowed to participate.
As Black History Month comes to a close, we want to take a minute to celebrate a group of true trailblazers who've created a wealth mindset by charting their own path. The hip hop community shows what can happen when you unapologetically value yourself and pursue your dreams. It's a story that merges business, culture, and personality, and is chronicled in the critically acclaimed documentary, The Game, which has yet to hit US shores. Stacey appears in it along with a who's who of hip hop, including the one and only 50 Cent.
In the beginning, all you want to own is yourself as an artist because the record company owns it. And then when you get to the point where you're out from under their banner, it's different, a different pace, different thing. Nobody's benefiting from you but you.
It's an economic civil rights movement. For so many years, the Black community has, tried to make it in a white world. And what the hip hop culture did, and it was, it's such a visceral kind of music, it took us out of that.
Look at the guys that you mentioned from hip hop culture that would stand out as people that were able to branch out and do other things in business. They were already living within the entrepreneur spirit. Before the music, before the first song took off, it already was there. It was already hustling. We already did what we had to do to survive prior to this. Both Ice-T, Jay-Z, me, myself, everybody that you mentioned, it's already built into us. So you're gonna continue to make the next move, do what we gotta do, however we gotta do it, we're gonna get it.
In order to get corporate America to pay attention, hip-hop artists and entrepreneurs really had to educate corporate America in some very basic ways and some demonstrative ways.
If I turned them on to a vodka, why shouldn't I be part owner of that vodka? If I turned them on to a new sneaker, why shouldn't I own the sneaker? It makes common sense to them. So I think it's just an entrepreneurial thought process that has been part of rap music from the inception.
Look, with Vitamin Water, that's really when it started. I made more money outside of music than I made from music. Because when those deals go, they go for real. It's big money involved. You see what I'm saying? It's just, in music, without music, I wouldn't have the ability to be a part of those deals. It would have never happened.
The music business is built on the cultural capital of Black artists. It's built on Black genius.
And yet, for many years, the major labels were all white-run corporate entities with segregated Black departments. Hip-hop is the first genre to really turn that on its head.
Before we say goodbye, Angela and I are celebrating the achievement of one of our goals, a new platform that we hope will play a crucial role in wealth building for the Black community. Be sure to check out teamwealthwednesdays.com for information and resources that will help you rebuild your dream.
Teamwealthwednesdays.com only partners with organizations whose products and services help find solutions for systemic economic barriers in the Black community, who are committed to wealth building for Blacks throughout community initiatives, and demonstrate a commitment to diversity in their workforce. We'd like to thank Self Financial and Rocket Mortgage for checking those boxes.
Thanks to all of our guests for joining us, and to all of you, Team Wealth Wednesdays, and to all of the HBCUs out there.